G'day guys, welcome to today's workout of the day. Before I touch on it, it's not an adult movie top that I'm promoting. It's a CrossFit training top, so Cam just thought I'd better mention that one to everyone.
Risque.
Very risque. Guys, today what we're going to talk to you about, and something that we've been very focused on. So we're property developers, as you'd be aware, and one of the things that's always motivated us, or we've made sure that we were in touch with, was what are the driving forces in the market at any given time. So what are the groups in the market? How do we need to sell to them if they're going to buy stuff from our developments? And what motivates them and drives them at different times in the cycle of the market. So we're going to talk about the three groups today, guys, which are first home buyers, upgraders, and investors, guys, the third group there. And they make up different portions of the market at any given time. So Cam will just touch through, I guess, some of their motivations in the market.
The percentage split between the three different groups has changed slightly through this market cycle, so I'm curious to see how that plans out. But historically, first home buyers have made up about 20% of the market. You've got relocators, which are upgraders, downgraders, made up about 50% of the market, and investors about 30% of the market. Now those percentages change depending on which type or position the cycle is in, and I'll explain to you why.
And you probably see the government at times, guys, getting involved to try and tweak those numbers because they all do different things for the market. So a few years ago, there was obviously a big push in the government on getting first home buyers into the market with some incentives and things like that. As the market improved, they ramped those back slightly just to keep other measures ticking along in the economy.
So there's a good point. Obviously, the building industry is one of the biggest drivers of the economy. So when the government needs a bit of a kick in the general economy, one of the biggest ones they focus on is the building industry, and that's when you'll see the incentives come in. First home buyers, we talk about first home buyers first of all. They're looking for basic entry level. They're looking for sub-median house pricing. They've got minimal assets, minimal limited capital to be able to throw into the property. And the reality is first home buyers are scared. They're scared of missing out on the great Australian dream. So they get very emotional when it comes to buying the property, especially if the market's hot. That fear factor comes in of going, I can never get into the property. So first home buyers, and the reason I said that this market cycle is a little bit different to previous ones, and I'm only talking a minor factor, is the first home buyer percentage is a little bit lower at this point in time. Investors have crept up a little bit, and I think that may be just a little bit slower on the uptake. The economy's stronger than it was when all the incentives started really flowing through. There's a bit more consumer confidence at this point in time. Relocators, upgraders, downgraders are usually looking for something bigger or smaller, closer to work, closer to kids, grandkids, that sort of thing. What's some of the other things? They need to sell their own home for a good price. They're not as or they can pay more to get what they want, so they're happy to pay over the market odds. So they're above the median house price.
They're sort of going to buy more auction than the other groups, you'd say?
Yeah.
First home buyers and investors?
Yeah, that's it. First home buyers go to auction a lot, but often come out a bit battered around. Relocators, they do tend to buy at auction in those middle ring suburbs, because most relocators are moving in. They're either moving in getting something bigger, depending on the stage of their life, whether they've got kids, or they're selling in the similar area and downgrading to something smaller, but usually in the similar area. So the relocators are usually pushing in further to the CBDs or the activity centres and then staying put. Investors is one that I really focus on, is understanding the percentage of investors, and I do that by understanding the amount of loans that are going through and the amount of titles that have investor tacked onto it. So whether the property going through a titles office is a primary place of residence. Some of the things similar to first home buyers. They'll buy sub-median house price. Investors shouldn't buy at auction. This is a big one. I always say paying more than anyone else is not a smart investment strategy. So it's always amazed me, investors that go to auction and purchase. Investors don't push prices up, they absorb additional stock onto the market. So one thing that's interesting about investors, and the reason I focus on the investors and how many investors are purchasing in any capital city at any point in time, is investors are the ones that do soak up that extra stock. Once a market, especially if we think about Melbourne and Sydney, once those larger capital cities have had a bit of growth, the investors should be buying at the start of the market. The smart investors always buy at the start of recovery phase. They don't buy during market hysteria. Once they've had their growth, they then pull out, and that's when the relocators and first home buyers really crank up. So first home buyers usually give the market a kick, relocators, and then investors jump in, soak up that extra stock, and then the relocators come in and push the market to a frenzy, into a fever pitch. The investors at that point have had their growth. So if we think back to the larger capital cities, what's really interesting and what's good for investors to understand, once investors have had some growth in those capital cities, the amount of sales that occur in Melbourne and Sydney, and once the investors then jump to smaller markets like Perth and Brisbane, the amount of investors moving out of those larger cities to the smaller markets can really invigorate those smaller markets, and that's when things get excited. So you can get some quick growth in those smaller markets and pull your money back and relocate your equity back into the capitals.
And a great example that's been Perth and Brisbane over the last property cycle, guys, for those who follow it. You would have seen some really big steep spikes in both of those cities over 1 or 2 year periods, and then it tapers back down and slows down a little bit. So really great examples in the last maybe 10 years in those smaller cities.
So hopefully it gives you a little bit more insight into some of the pressures on the market cycles, and obviously being developers ourselves, we're really keen when we talk to our sales agents of our developments to see how much they understand the different demographics and what product we're selling. If we're doing a high-rise apartment, for example, understand whether those agents really understand the different buying types and who they're going to sell our product to.
Guys, we've got some great WODs coming up this week, so we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Hope you enjoy.
Have a good day.